What's going on, people? Welcome to Conversations with Chike Evans. I am Chike Evans, and we will be talking to Gary Leroy Gray today. If you don't know him, put yourself in rewind. Remember Nelson from The Cosby Show. That was Mr. Gray when he was a little tyke, acting his butt off at that age. He's an accomplished producer. He is also a voiceover artist. He's been in movies, films. I don't know if he's done stage. I'm going to talk to him about that. But thank you for tuning in, and thank you for the support. Please go over to the YouTube channel and please subscribe, like, watch all the videos. You can see my growth. Back in the day, me going around with the camera, you'll see how raw it is. Check it out. Just waiting for him to pop into the room and we'll get started. Thank you for tuning in again. Where's everybody from? I like to know where people are from. Like, where am I? What's going on? How are you? Welcome in. Just waiting for Mr. Gray to join. And I appreciate you guys' support because you don't have to. There's a million things you could be doing, but I'm glad you're here watching this. Trying to keep your head above the fray with all this nonsense going on. You know what I mean? Stay positive minded, focus. What's going on? I see you. Just waiting for Mr. Gray to come in. Wow. Okay. Okay. Wow, y'all coming in here fast. Okay. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Oh, and also, I never really talk about that, but you can also follow me at the Stephen Knight Show. I also write for Philly Soul now. It's a magazine out of Philadelphia. And No Lies Detected. No Lies Detected, I'm doing a lot of posting. I haven't actually done any videos yet, but we talk about what's going on with this government, current events, politics, all that stuff. Mr. Gray came into the room. Just waiting for him to join. Thank you guys for being in here again. I can never say that enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because support is everything. I don't ask you guys for money. I work. I make money. This is my passion. This is what I love to do. So I don't ask you for money, but I appreciate your support. All right. Mr. Gray is here. We're about to get started. Ah, brother.
What's going on?
Listen, I just want to say straight up on the rip, I appreciate you for your time and your energy and your patience.
Of course, of course. No problem. Like I said, I'm glad to actually finally get on this. We've been trying for a minute, so
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
yeah.
So I don't know if you feel this way, but to me, even though there's a wide age gap between you and
Hmm.
I look at you as being part of Black Hollywood royalty. You've been in the game long enough to deserve that from me.
I appreciate
And
it.
I appreciate your artistic contributions just from the rip.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So
Thank you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's go all the way back. Where are you from?
From Chicago, Illinois, South Side.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. And
Chicago, the best city in the world.
I actually went to Chicago for the first time. I mean, I've been through there in layovers, but I went there to visit and actually spend some time there 2 years ago for the first time.
Mhm. Got it.
Awesome, loved it. I just have to come back in the warmer weather.
because
Oh
y'all
yeah,
winter is
definitely. I
brutal.
mean, it's the best summer. It's the worst winter, but it's the best summer out there. So definitely come at the right time. You want springtime, maybe a little fall. Like right now is actually really nice. Right
Okay.
before it gets a little cool, before the rain or anything like that. Perfect.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So, little Mr. Gray in
Mhm.
Chicago back then, how old were you when you actually started?
I was technically 3.5, just about three and some change.
Hmm.
I was modeling very early, doing print work in Chicago, and at the time was doing for a couple of publications, just some print work, normal print work, and I started modeling and doing some small runway shows out in Chicago, and then ended up getting to the point where I was traveling for fashion shows. Fashion
Okay.
houses would employ me. The charm school that I went to in Chicago, Cleo Johnson's, which is now defunct, but at the time was very well known as a premier school for models in Chicago to go to really gain runway knowledge, just modeling etiquette, everything under the sun. So they turned out a lot of great people, and I ended up going to a show in New York actually, and it was for I believe it was Tommy Hilfiger. I always get it mixed up. It's either Tommy Hilfiger or Guess, and the producers of that show were the producers of the Cosby Show. So
Yeah.
as they say, the rest is history. So yeah, I was 3.5 when I went to do that show, and I think I was in New York. I think 3 months later, 4 months. So
Okay.
yeah,
I
quick
want to put a
process.
pin. I want to put a pin right there. We're going to come back to that point. I want to
Yeah.
go back to the school that you were in. What's the name again?
Cleo
What was the
Johnson
name?
School of Charm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Cleo Johnson School of Charm. So those type of institutions are the thing of yesteryear. We don't
Oh
have
yeah,
too many more of those anymore. And I come from the era where they had the arts in the public schools because I
of
went to
course,
public
right.
school.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you as far as myself,
Hmm.
that offering has given me so much in my adult life
Mm.
because it opened my mind up to the arts and different
Yeah,
things, other things I may have wanted to have passions in. When
definitely.
I was a teenager, I was a hip hop dancer. So I danced for a lot of hip hop acts.
Nice.
That was from getting the musicality, the music
Hmm.
theory, um, the dancing arts in school.
Yeah.
So at this stage in your life, if you can go back to that time, I know you were 3, but
Hmm.
can you connect anything, any gifts that were given to you back then that still hold true now?
Oh, plenty. Yeah, like I had mentioned, I had spoken mainly on modeling etiquette and, modeling professionalism, but that translates, outside of the, I guess you would say the job of modeling, right? So, just at 3.5, knowing simply when to be backstage and be quiet.
Mhm.
Like that goes a very long way into adulthood. It just ends up growing and morphing into times where all right, this is my quiet time, this is my observed time, or now I'm listening, I'm taking in, just simple things like that, I think were things that went a long way. And beyond that, obviously dealing with modeling back then is a lot different than modeling now because everything back then was runway based. It was
Mhm.
seeing this in person, right? And now
Right,
everything digital and or social media influencing and whatnot. Back then you had models, supermodels were a thing. You had
right.
models that you went and got to get your product sold, right? And now it's influencers. So yeah, I think that it's really just kind of where I learned how to be an entertainer just kind of across the board, understanding that it's more than just the acting part that goes into it. There's all the business side. There's what can you do as far as relationships with people? How do you cultivate those and nurture those as a young person, not an old person who can offer things like money or,
Mhm.
services. What do I do as a child to, influence my work environment? How do I make it easier for me and for other people. I spoke about this on on the Reliving Single podcast, actually, where, it's just being that kid that nobody ever has to say anything to, and it grew to me being an adult that nobody really has to say anything to. So yeah, definitely things that I still use for sure.
Yeah. And shout out to Erica Alexander and Kim Coles on
Yes.
the Reliving Single podcast. That's actually, when I saw you on there, that's actually like, I always wanted to talk to him. Let me get him on the
Yeah.
show. So
Yeah,
thank
no,
you, lady.
like I said, we've been going back and forth, I feel, for a little bit. And I remember you reaching out to me when you saw that. You was like, I'm watching it right now. Definitely got to have you on the show. So, like I said, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course. So as a young kid being 3, I too used to model. Grandma would take me to a church and I would put on the
Oh,
shows.
yeah.
But at that time, I was like the youngest one in the group. But I
Ah,
knew how to play with the audience because for whatever reason, I knew how to play off that cuteness. Did you
yeah,
have
of
that
course.
same? Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it sucks because for one, I had it just in my family because
Mhm.
I was the first boy within a span of like 10, 15 years front and back. So
Wow.
it's all girls in my family around me, and then I was like, here comes the boy, we have a boy finally. So I think I got that early on, just being the kid who's, oh my gosh, it's our little boy, he's so cute, and trying to figure out how to work that and play that. I had aunties and grandmas and, all the
Amen.
above that I worked it with. So the crowd was no different. As a matter of fact, I felt, as an advanced thinking child, I feel like I kind of probably took advantage of the audience in a way, because to me, I'm
Hmm.
like, if I can gain my family that knows me, I can for sure do some strangers. I can definitely get what I need out of y'all. So a laugh, a chuckle, somebody to clap, that was easy for me.
Right,
I
right.
was trying to get money from auntie, so that was my hard job.
Okay, so the producers look at you, they pull you for the Cosby Show.
Mm.
Do you have a formal audition?
No, not a formal audition. We had some what's called screen testing
Mhm.
with parts of the cast. I believe Jeffrey, who played my father. I think we had Bill at one point. Bill and Miss Rashad come in. So it was not really an audition. At this point, when you've made it past a certain point and they're sort of seeing you with the cast, that's screen test or what they call a producer call. And I pretty much did, I think, one or two of those, and
Okay.
that was it. But at that point I was already flown out to New York by the producers, from Chicago. So
Yeah.
I think it was this thing where we're serious, we just need to see you next to these cast members.
Right, right. And so I remember a conversation that Ms. Raven Simone was having one time about when she was introduced into that show and
Mm.
her beginnings, and she couldn't read. 3
Oh
years
yeah,
old. Could you read?
yeah. 3 years old, I could read.
Okay,
I could
okay.
read.
All right.
So I was, I. It was funny enough. Like I said, I was really kind of one of those kids that you wanted to get out of the house. Like, please stop bothering me. Like, I'm reading, I'm trying to write on everything. I'm asking you the why questions. What about this and what's that? So I think that was really my thing. Was my parents just didn't know what to do with me. They were just like, please put him somewhere that he could go to for a couple hours a day and not bother us. But that turned out to be acting. So yeah, I could read. It's a funny story. I actually oftentimes said other people's lines on Cosby shows. So we would do tapings and somebody would forget their line and I would shout it out most of the time, no matter where I was. Once I would be behind the set, I'd be on the set, I'd be in the audience somewhere, I would shout it out. So yeah, definitely had that problem slash blessing that I could read by 3.
Nice, nice. And so a typical day on the set, what is that like for you at 3? What is a typical run through of a day, morning to evening?
Usually the kids are able to be on set the least amount of time. They want children to be there the least amount of time. They don't want them sitting for too long, and things like that. So I would get to set a little bit later than most. of the other cast members, but still early because I
Mhm.
loved being on set. So I was usually there early enough to catch breakfast at Crafty, you know, like I'm definitely gonna eat. So you know, I would do that and chill for a second and you know get into hair and makeup immediately. And just be ready. You know, I liked to
Yeah.
be ready. So that's usually what my first hour at set would consist of. Even if I didn't need to necessarily be ready at that time, I would always ask, could I? Because I just don't want to have, like, it's so much better to be like, oh, we need Gary. And I'm just ready to go to set rather than, oh, he still needs hair and makeup. He still needs to get in the wardrobe, all of that. Right. So
Right.
I started just kind of like doing that. That was my morning ritual. And, yeah, most of the time, just waiting for them to call me to set. I'm always one where I don't like to rehearse a lot. I like to be a little bit more natural when I'm saying my dialogue, even at that age. So I started early with kind of not over rehearsing and more so rehearsing with the people that you have in the scene. So I would wait until I get, okay, we're blocking now. Okay, cool, let's run lines, you know. But
Yeah.
before then, I'm not, shut in, especially at 3. You know, I had short attention span. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. And then, shooting to whenever we shoot. Typically, at 3, you can't again stay on set that long. So I was probably gone by 6, sometime like that. And then on shoot nights, it's a lot different. You don't arrive until probably 4 p.m. And then once everybody's sitting in their seats around 6, you shoot the show. And you're gone around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, something like that. And it's a late night, but that only happened one night out of the week. So, the other days it was kind of like a typical school day almost. Don't Obviously at 3 I wasn't in school. Officially I was in school, but I wasn't officially in school for sets to need a
Right.
set teacher. So I had what was called a like a handler, which was basically a person that is a certified teacher, but I don't necessarily have to do the 3 hours of mandatory school that most kids do. So yeah, that was pretty much what the day consisted of, and then obviously growing up, the school hours and the set hours got longer, you know. But other than that, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty. I always tell people being on set is not as glamorous as you think unless you're doing a whole bunch of things. It's a lot of hurry up and wait. Hurry up and wait.
Exactly.
That's the main thing. You just hurry up and wait.
Exactly.
You wait for your time. You wait, and then you do the thing, and it takes 10 seconds, and you're like, well, I was just waiting for 4 hours to do that one quick scene. So a lot of times it's that you're just chilling, reading whatever book you want to
Mhm.
read, or game that you
Mhm.
meant to play, or show that you meant to binge. That's all getting done while you're on set because it's a lot of
Yeah.
waiting.
And staying away from craft services.
Oh yeah. Well, me, I'm trying my best to get them to basically give me my own pantry. So I was staying very close to craft services, unfortunately.
And
Yep.
so, do you have anyone on set that you gravitated toward the most, like you were most endeared to?
I mean, specifically Cosby Show or just in general?
Well, that's your first. That's the big thing. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, for the Cosby Show, I mean, I definitely was really close with Raven. Obviously, we're the closest in age. So most of the time that was off actual set was spent with her in her dressing room, and we're playing games and stuff like
Nice.
that. Simon Says, "Oh my gosh, I remember me, Raven Simone, and Felicia Rashad's daughter would always be
Condola.
playing Simon Says." Yes, yes, yeah, we would always be playing Simon Says. We love that game. That was literally just our thing. Simon Says and Uno. We like if we are not on set, not at Crafty, that's where we are, what we're doing. So
Nice.
yeah, I would say Raven definitely at the time was just somebody that was like a big sister to me, of course.
Okay.
And Bill was just always great in that moment where, every time you step on set, he's making sure you're good. Okay, cool. You know your lines? All right, bet. Okay, cool. And then, all right, we get on set and he's joking and, he's playing horsey with the kids and, all that kind of stuff. So you naturally gravitate toward to people who, show you that kind of side of them. And, we got Christmas presents and birthday presents and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, it was very easy to fall into that. But I think in on that set, the number one would probably be Miss Rashad. Like me
Yeah.
and Felicia, she is sisters with Debbie Allen, who I danced with later in life. So I've seen her the most. I spent the most time with her. So just another great aunt. As far as what I consider, that's my auntie. And only because Miss Debbie is basically like my grandma. So it's just like I call her my auntie because I can't. She always says she's like, you can't call both of us grandma. So like, all right, I got to choose one. So Miss Allen cooks for me and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, I got to go with Miss Allen. But yeah,
Nice.
she's a close second.
Yeah. And I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Mr. Malcolm Jamal Warner,
Oh
who we
yeah,
just lost. And I had an opportunity to meet him, and he was a great dude. Like, he was
Mm.
just solid, salt to the earth, regular dude.
Yeah. No, I every time I ran into Malcolm after doing the Cosby Show, it was just, again, just a love and a light, always encouraging. That's how he was on set, though. He was very much. It was crazy because we were obviously too far in age to have any kind of
Mhm.
camaraderie, really. But he always, attempted. He was a teenager, so he's navigating things at that time, right? So doesn't really have time to worry about a 4-year-old. So, on set. But later in life, every time I saw him, again, just a great dude,
Yeah.
always, again, very encouraging. And yeah, like I said in my post about him, the last time I saw him, I was going to a callback or something on, I think it was the CBS lot, and he was walking off, and I saw him. He saw me, and I saw him kind of at the same time, and I could see through his, because it was in the pandemic, and he had a mask on. I could see he's like just grinning from ear to ear. He's like, "My boy, what's going on?" And we talked for a second, and I had to go to my callback, so couldn't talk for too long, but yeah, he was just like, "You got this," after we when we parted ways. So, it's just it is very tragic, and it sucks to lose two friends in the business, in that way. And it's also something that I love. I love the water, and so previous to, or prior to him, I lost Naya Rivera was a dear friend of mine, and so just having that happen years apart, yeah, it just really is unfortunate for people who you feel like their light is not done,
Yeah.
to be cut short, in that way. So, but other than that, I feel like he lived just such an amazing life, like amazing career. Like when you look back and you're like, dang, he was working, bro. He was doing great work, and nobody knew because he wasn't in any kind of controversy or he didn't have any crazy relationships, that people could talk about. And I think that is just one of those things that, as an actor who kind of just puts his head down and does the work, I resonate with, all the
Hmm.
time. So,
Hmm.
when he passed, I really felt for him, just in going through seeing other people from that day and age and or his demographic or his era kind of do other things. And,
Right.
I always, I just hope that he knows that he was always like appreciated and loved, and everybody just loved his work and just his character of just Theo alone, really kind of set
Yeah.
so many tones for how Black boys were perceived moving
Hmm.
forward. And I still to this day don't think that we've gotten something like that. I think my wife and kids tried with Junior,
Yeah.
learning disability and things, but it comes off as a caricature, right? It comes off a
It
little
does.
bit of a parody. And
Yeah.
I think that genuineness of a boy who had to get it from the mud, and not in a financial sense, which that's the way that we always see Black people get it from the mud, right? It was not there. It was from his mental, from his emotional. The
Yeah.
thing that we always get said that we have too much ego. There's angry Black woman syndrome, and all this kind of thing. So I think it was great to see someone start from the bottom there. And sort of rise to the occasion in that
Right.
character. So, I think the only person that could have done it is Malcolm. So,
Right. And that's also because a lot of people don't think about this part of it too. Like you said before, he was a teenager. He was a young child. And what's going on culturally is gangster rap is starting to move into the sphere. He
yeah,
didn't fall into the trappings of that.
yeah,
Even
yeah,
with all the fame and the money and all that, he didn't. And shout out to Ms. Warner, his mom. She
yeah,
did a great job managing him and raising him and keeping him solid in the business.
absolutely. Absolutely. Fantastic. And I spoke that on the Reliving Single podcast. You need your tribe. You need, those
Yeah.
people and it's not sheltering. It's, because that's, to me, it's too much, but there's the right amount. And I think I said it on there, it's a gate. You can see outside the gate. I want you to see everything. I want you to be able to even put your fingers out a little bit and maybe touch it a little bit. But I want that door to be closed unless we are all walking through it safely, And so
Yeah.
to me, that's what it was about. And that's what he had. And like I said,
Yeah.
it shows. Mhm.
So, how many years were you on there?
2 years. I
Okay.
did my last episode around five-ish. Yeah, 5.5, somewhere in
Okay.
that range. So yeah, I spent 2 years out in New York. I was staying on Roosevelt Island while we were shooting, and yeah, great 2 years out there. I want to go back because I haven't been back. So, well, I have been back very briefly, but I don't count it. It wasn't long enough to be considered. Oh, I'm spending some time in NYC, so like I need to go to New York again. I haven't been back.
Since you brought up Roosevelt Island,
Mhm.
trivia, fun fact:
Oh, nice.
Sarah Jessica Parker also used to live on Roosevelt Island when she was a child
Really?
actor. Yeah,
Wow, that's crazy. And it's so funny because when I was there was like nothing there. It was like one grocery store, like two apartment buildings. It was a diner named Andy's. I'll never forget. Awesome cheesecake. And that was it. I was like, and everything else was just like, all right, let's get to the tram because we got to go to civilization. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, everything else, was off the island. But I'm sure what I hear now is that it's a little bit of a bar town, like a lot of little bars and stuff like
I
that.
can
So,
see that. I can see that.
yeah. So, hey, I said, more power to them. Get some industry.
And so you do that little guest spot. I don't mean to call it little because it's not little. You did a guest spot on Living Single.
Yeah,
Do you know who these people are that you're interacting with? Do you know at least like the Queen Latifah? Do you know who she is?
absolutely. My mom was a music nut, and I was very well integrated into what was going on musically. Now the show, I believe, we were in the first season.
Hmm.
So the show hadn't actually, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, the show hadn't dropped. It wasn't something that I could look at and be like Cosby Show, where it's like, oh, we're watching it. I'm gonna be on that. So
Yeah,
I didn't really know. Obviously, there was no cultural impact of Living Single at the time. It was just I knew Queen Latifah, and the Fields family.
yeah,
So when it comes down to it, my mom, obviously let me know like, yeah, you're going. This is Queen Latifah. This is Kim Fields. So it's like when I knew that, I saw that, and all right, I gotta rise to the occasion. And I loved hip hop early on. So Queen Latifah was played constantly in my house. So yeah, meeting her was just like I was like, it was so funny because I think one of the first things I asked her if she knew Heavy D, because he was one of my favorites. Because I always used to be like, he says he's a overweight lover, Heavy D, and I used to be like, I'm the little lover, Lil G. So I was like, I always used to be like, you know Heavy D, and so she told, I remember her, she's like, I do. And so I was like, I love both of you. So yeah, no, I think I realized it definitely later on, the actual impact. But oh no, I absolutely knew who Queen Latifah was. I was very excited.
okay. And so now, like you're doing these spots, you're the cute kid that pops up, and do you get from the culture, from the streets, are you starting to get noticed in public and people fawning over you? And what is that like at that young age?
Yeah, I mean, Cosby Show was bad. There was a moment where I believe we had to get a police escort out of FAO Schwartz. It's funny,
Oh
the FAO
wow.
Schwartz that Kevin McAllister went to in Home Alone 2, or was it Home Alone 2? Yes, Home Alone 2, was the FAO Schwartz that I was in.
Wow.
And we had to get escorted out because I want to say a couple of months after the first episode with the twins premiered. And yeah, we got ran out of there. And so, at that was the earliest. And it's funny because I don't know if I've had well, no, I lie. Because even Stevens and Bring It On definitely have that kind of pandemonium. But I was about to say, I was like, I don't know if I've reached that pandemonium again, to the point where I'm, running from people or, trying to duck out. And that was very early on. I learned, I was like, whoa, okay, I can't go here? What do you mean? So, but it was easy to sort of deal with it at that time
Yeah.
because it wasn't sort of, it was my where I lived, but it was also where I lived because I work here, you know. So it was like understanding that in New York, where I live and where I work, I'm gonna have that because I'm on this show. I kind of did it like that. But in my mind, I was like, okay, when I go back home, I'm just gonna be Gary again, you know. So I think it didn't really hit until I started doing things like Fresh Prince and Family Matters, and then I'm coming back home now, and all of my friends or all of the people at school are like, "We saw you on TV," and it's like, "Oh, okay." And now I have the same thing here that I did, you know, in other places. So it definitely hit, and then, like I said, I've revisited that kind of I guess, popularity over the years. So at that age, it was really just cool. I was just like thinking of it as a game. We running from people, hey, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, I didn't, you know, understand it, I would say, until I got a little bit older, around that like 9, 10 age, where I had done Fresh Prince and Family Matters, and now I'm, you know, doing, you know, at the time I was doing like Clifford the Big Red Dog and Rocket Power. So, you know,
Hmm.
Rocket Power won a Kids Choice Awards. So I'm at the Kids Choice Awards, and we're being, you know, in the backstage because we can't, the cast of Rocket Power can't be out front with the kids, and, you know, stuff like that. It's like, oh, okay, now I get it, you know,
Yeah.
but never phased me. I always look at, I mean, people are people. You know, I think that
Yeah.
that was one of the biggest things for me about this job, is that it's a job to me. You know, it's a job, it's a passion. Don't get me wrong. It's a passion, and it's a way of life, but I look at it like it's a job. It's people, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm treating these people the same way I would want to be treated, you know, set in Hollywood, and, you know, acting life is not better than anything else to me.
Right.
So, for me, I think that yeah, I loved it. I always want to talk to people who recognize me, or, you know, it's so funny because my fiance always goes, "Why do you do this?" Because somebody will recognize me and they'll go, "Where do I know you from?" And I don't like to go, "Oh, I'm on television." I think that's so pretentious and weird.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Even though, okay, cool, I'm looking at you and I kind of see that that's probably what you're thinking, but I'm never gonna say that. I'm gonna be like, I don't know, what school you went to, you know, like, you know, or I don't know. Have you been to the McDonald's on Victory? You know, like that for me. That's kind of what my mind wants to go to. So she always makes fun of me. She's like, "Why do you do that?" And I don't want people to think that I feel like they are different, you know, or that, you know, I am a person and you are a fan, you know, or, you know, I'm a celebrity or you're a fan. To me, it's just people. I just so happen to do a job that you really like. You know, for me, I
Mhm.
look at painters and I'm like, oh my God, like that's
Yeah.
amazing. Like, how do you do that? Like, I get fawn over people like that. Or I love, you know, motorsports. So for me, I'm the same way with race car drivers. You know, if I meet
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton, I'm freaking out, bro. Like, you know, so, you know, that to me is, I look at it that way. I think that I can't act differently because I wouldn't want my favorites or my icons to treat me any differently or act a certain way or tell me I can't get a picture or whatnot. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like my privacy. I'm a hermit. But if I'm outside and that happens, I think that the job that you picked, that's part of the description. You know, you're supposed
Right.
to, you know, incorporate yourself with the fans and the people that love you and your characters. I think you're supposed to really engage with them and figure out how you can stay in their good graces. You know, to me, that's the main thing. I like to talk to people who watch me because I want to see what you want to see. All right, cool. Like, let me make sure I can do something like that so I can speak to these people, or else
Right.
I'm just going to end up fading into the distance. So yeah, I like to mingle with people.
Right. Right. And as you aged and you started to notice that you could get different roles, were you one of the people that, because I've spoken to a lot of artists that were artists from childhood, and they've always had a desire to do more and greater, but because of the aesthetic, maybe they didn't grow as fast as their mind did. They couldn't obtain those things that they wanted because aesthetically it didn't match
Yeah.
what they desired.
Yeah, no, it's weird. I went through a period like that, but I always say I got saved in a way where I didn't have to go through that like I see other people do.
Hmm.
Um, After Even Stevens, I was like, I'm sick of it. I was like, I'm done, mom. I was like, I don't want to be the black friend nerd no more. Like, please, like, please. Like, I was like, if I have to stop acting, in order to like, you know what I mean? To not feel that anymore. I felt like every job that I was doing, it was just black, nerd friend, the acceptable black kid or black guy because I wasn't dark enough or thug enough to do the thug roles or to the
Right.
other roles, or I didn't look old enough, to play the college student, that was a little bit, edgy or anything like that. I couldn't do that.
Right.
Or the love interest. I didn't look old enough. So, oh no, he's got to be the best friend, all that kind of thing. So I think that the transition for me happened uh, with Noah's Ark jumping the broom, and that came at the same time. Even though they didn't come out at the same time, I auditioned for them at the same time as Bring It On All or Nothing. So
Mm.
literally, I think I went on their auditions like a week apart. It was because it was. I remember I had 10 pages for Bring It On, and I had like 8 pages for Noah's Ark to learn. And I remember it was a hell week. I had school. I was like, come on, bro, like 18 pages, So I remember that week very well. But I think that transition was like I looked at Bring It On, and I'm like, all right, here's a guy that he's slapping somebody's booty without asking consent, and okay, I'm a dancer, obviously I got a little bit of roughness to him, so I was like, okay, cool. And I was told that I only booked that role because of the chemistry that I had with everybody. They were like, we could tell that, this is something that you guys do. And sure enough, I booked, Bring It On with my friends, basically. I knew Giovanni Samuels before, I knew Francia, so that audition was just like a reunion dance class, basically,
Right.
right? So,
Right. Right.
and then with Noah's Ark, I was very timid about the audition when I got it, but Patrick, he had seen my work and wanted me to audition. And they were actually, I believe, in their like second or third rounds of auditions for Brandon. He said he had been auditioning. He said he had actually booked someone and they pulled out last minute because they were like, I don't think I'm comfortable with, the LGBT stuff. And then, I believe there was a second actor booked, but it was like scheduling conflict or something like that. But I think Patrick had said like, I still kind of believe that was in their mind, the uncomfortableness. And so when I auditioned, I went to one audition and it was, I was definitely very nervous because at the time, I was not, a great ally. I had not done anything in the LGBT world, but in my mind, I was like, I knew I was an actor and I was like, that
Right.
takes precedent above everything else. And for me, I said, I can't effectively do this job and speak to people if I'm not willing to tell any story. So that to
Right.
me was really what I looked at and, to just try it. I think it was one thing to be like, I'm never doing it, and then like to say, okay, maybe you tried and it's not for you, but at least you tried, and
Yeah.
upon
Yeah.
actually immersing myself not only into that that project but those people. I always champion people like Daryl and Jensen and everybody on that set who kind of took me under their wing and knew what it felt like to be a straight man who kind of came onto the set, and then I had people who like Christian who were gay men who all the time worked with straight men and said, we understand, and
Right.
this is how we would like for your experience to go, and once I got
Yeah.
that and, saw the care that was taken, to really be inviting, I think that that's the one thing that before I was an ally, I always, rubbed up against was that it didn't seem inviting. I'm like, anytime, I deal with the community, it's abrasive. But that's that mentality that you're told to think that everything has to be this wall up against, so the moment that I stepped onto that set and just again, it changed my life, changed my perspective, changed, how I thought about the community, how I interacted. And I think that was the thing that really took me to a different level in
Yeah.
transition in my acting career was if I can't be that way in real life, then there's never going to be a character that opens up to me that I can
Right.
tackle in that way. So I
Right.
had to open that up, with me personally, and then boom, next thing you know, now I'm getting, the male adult cop, serial killer. I'm getting all kinds of roles, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of them are in the community, and I take note of that. I say the only community to really show me love with, oh, you can do other roles. You can be a love interest. You can be a cop. You can be a father. Is the LGBTQ community. So,
Yeah.
everybody always asks me, well, why did you it seems like you went on a run there or you just did, project after project in that world. And why not? Why, if they're showing me what I can do, why not do that for
But
them? Why not?
hello, it's work.
Exactly. It is work. And, and I hate to, because a lot of people are like, oh, he's just collecting a check. And I never want that also to be out there. Like, I was just kind of taking money because I actually enjoy, like I said, the stories. Patrick got me to do Blackbird after Noah's Ark. I did Trace with another fantastic creator in the community that I love, Anthony Bond. And I think that just from there, it's just been something that I always take into account because I'm like, they showed me so much. Like it kept the lights on when you know what I mean. So
Right,
for
right.
me, I look at it like the least I could do is not be someone who shuts my mind off to that, even though that's not even on my brain anymore. But I see so many people who have that kind of aversion, or I'm not
Yeah.
gonna do it, So it's a thing, but I always look at it like I'm glad to have that experience where I was able to transition and able to change, because I think my career is better for it. My body of
Yeah.
work is better for it.
Yeah. And shout out to Patrick Ian Polk for seeing that vision in you to know that you could deliver that way.
Yeah,
And it always takes that one person seeing that in someone and saying yes. Halle Berry had the same thing with
yeah,
Jungle Fever. Spike
yep,
Lee told her he didn't want her. She was too pretty. And
yep,
she pushed back against that. She said, I can play a crackhead.
yep.
And she had to prove it.
Don't I know it? I was like, I know, and not necessarily the too pretty, but I have constantly had to prove. I mean, even with Anthony, with Trace, he had approached me and he said, this is a detective, and that turns out to be, not so great of a person. Is this, he's like, is this something that you? And I was like, give it to me. I was like, please let me do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a great way to. I love the fact that community has given me the opportunity to do so many other things that I probably would not have gotten the chance to,
Right. Right.
had I been so close-minded.
Yeah. And it's also it's cathartic, it's therapeutic, and it's also soul discovering when the artist can dig into areas that they've never been before because it
Absolutely.
tests your limits, it pushes your margins.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I felt that all the time, with Noah's Ark and with Blackbird, getting over the hump. It was great because Noah's Ark had so many guys on set that were like, I know your experience, like, don't worry, And so for me, having that be the lead in, I'm like, I had to take advantage of it. And I always look at it like, I know I had an advantage,
Yeah.
to, over most. Especially because Noah's Ark is so beloved as an entity, an IP in the community, and the same thing with Patrick. So I feel like it's just one of those things that I'm just, again, eternally thankful to
Yeah.
have worked on.
Moving forward, would you be open to working in that world again?
Noah's Ark, oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think Patrick gets he gets probably more shit than he should when it comes down to including my character of Brandon back into the Noah's Ark world. I see it all the time. I mean, I will post something and people will be like, "Are you going to be in Noah's Ark? Are you going to be in the reboot?" And I have definitely tried to tell people that I am not being brought back at this time. It's just a film. And that's one thing I tell people. I said it would be one thing if this was an announced show. And I'm telling you, I'm not going to be in the first season. And you're like, well, we might not ever get another season, or whatever. But I'm like, this is a film. You know what I mean? This is a comeback film. Let the boys reestablish who they are to people. There are so many people who don't know this property. They don't need the characters that were just introduced to be coming in and all that kind of stuff. I was like, I'm perfectly okay. Now, if Patrick ends up doing a show or a sequel, he might have some issues with with me and the people behind me because they have been requesting it for so long. I would say that is my most asked question is Brandon coming back to
Yeah.
Noah's Ark? So at this time I can't say anything other than you saw the little clip that they had and the new film. That's all I got cleared for. But other than that, we will see. We will see. I'm hoping to work with Patrick on other things. You know, I know
Yeah.
he had been tired of Noah's Ark, you know, and that question for so long. So I know what it took as a creator to return to that, you know, with the original cast and have to find new love and light in something
Right.
that you felt was stale, you know. So I think that give him some time to flesh out this new world in his
Right.
old IP, and then we will see. But yeah, absolutely not opposed to returning at all. I think Brandon right now is probably, you know, he's probably got a husband and kids. I think by now,
Mm.
I think he's somebody that's established. He just knew what he wanted so early. I feel,
Right.
you know, and knew the personalities of men that were much older and experienced than him, I think, at that time. So I feel like, you know, a lot of people were like, "Where do you think he is?" And I'm like, I think he's probably just as successful and as ready for the life as all the other characters. They're probably going to be
Right.
surprised, like, "Oh,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
Right.
okay," you know, because he was the young cat. But I think that would be a cool little storyline too. The fact that he's kind of, you know, where they're at, and then now they feel a little bit stagnant because wait, aren't we older than him? You know, I think that Patrick could
Exactly.
play around with that a little bit. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. So talk to me about the world of voiceover.
Oh man, my passion, my home. Yeah, I started doing voiceover at around 10 years old. I I was doing a agent search. I was trying out for new agents, and there was an agency by the name of Arlene Thornton and Associates that I had been, you know, people had told me were one of the best in the business, if not the best. And at the time, I wasn't really, I won't say I was focused on voiceover, but she was a voiceover agent that did other things. So for me, I was like, it's a cool byproduct. It's a great thing that, you know, it could be something on the side that I would do. I wanted to do cartoons, but, you know, I wasn't necessarily looking for that. But in the meeting, I read a copy for Rocket Power, who at the time were recasting Squid. And yeah, when I read it, she was just like, it was good enough for me to want to send in and represent you. So the rest, as they say, again, is history. And Rocket Power was my first major voiceover job. I had done commercials in Chicago and things like that, you know, McDonald dubs and things like that, but never something animated, you know,
Hmm.
or on a show. And so Rocket Power being my first, just launched into that and never looked back. I think voiceover is such a rewarding. I think I'm probably gonna get crap for saying this, but I feel like voiceover is like the actor's acting. Like if you really, you know, that in theater, you know, but I think that voiceover and theater are so different. You know, so there's to me, I think they're the same, but just in two different paths, right? You know, they're
Yeah.
in two
Yeah.
different directions. And voiceover is just, you know, you get to do so many things and be so many people and be in so many different environments, especially for a black person. You know, I think black women and men, you know, just now we're getting to the point where we're finding roles that are like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like, wow, a black guy in Alien, this is different, you know, like, you know, and he's not just there to die, you know. So for me, I feel like, you know, now, you know, on camera's catching up to voiceover. You know, for years, voiceover has been the only place that a black, you know, performer could be in space regularly, be a superhero without reproach
Hmm.
or without somebody saying why, oh, this is woke or, you know, anything like that. Phil Lamar was, you know, an Avatar and every other, you know, Samurai Jack. You know, there are so many things that Phil Lamar, the physical actor, would have
Hmm.
never been able to touch if it was on
Right.
camera. You know,
Right.
and so look at things like that, and I'm just so thankful for that world, and I'm so ready. You know, I'm looking at it now, and the world of voiceover is just now getting to the point where it's being taken seriously, you know,
Yeah.
and still not all the way taken seriously, but you know, animation in general is starting to be taken more seriously. So I'm just getting to the point now where I feel like we are in a sort of a renaissance where, you know, before how we didn't see any black projects on camera. You know, now we're seeing that same resurgence that we did experience a little couple, you know, a couple years ago with the Abbott Elementaries and the Lovecraft Countries coming
Right.
out and popping out. Now we get to see that in the world of animation, in the world of
Yeah.
voiceover. So I think it's great. I think that people still don't understand it. They don't understand the operations of it. I don't think they understand animation and voiceover as a whole. And I think that it's definitely getting to the point where getting some eyes. Blue Eye Samurai won the Emmy for Best Animated Project, and back in the day, anything animated was thought for kids, right? Now you
Right.
have these grown or adult animated projects that employ VO artists that are winning big awards and getting much accolade for how they are laying out stories and characters. And I'm glad, because it's about time. Because I
Yeah.
definitely am tired of everyone thinking that just because you're a voiceover artist, you do happy fun cartoons and that's it. So
No. And
I
I
think last
argue that
one.
in the world of animation, right, an actor can be any and everything that's in existence to man. You can be a
Oh yeah,
broom. You can be a
exactly,
door. You can be anything.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that that's really, especially the world of video games being, the number, I don't know if you know this, but video games are the number one most profitable entertainment industry by far, far, far. So, the industry is looking at video games and following all the trends from gaming. And, it's to me a great thing, because not only am I a gamer, but it allows me to sort of be ahead of the curve a little bit, because since I immerse myself in this world as a VO artist now, great. Oh, I know it's coming. I know, oh, this is this. Oh, great. Okay, cool. I know how I'm supposed to be, So I think, again, just the opportunities are just so different, now. It's ever changing and ever growing. And I think that in the next 10 years, you're going to see a huge, huge shift with actors holding out with these projects and wanting to be taken way more serious than they are.
Right.
Animes that are huge Japanese animated shows do not give actors, or English, I will say English dub actors, any residuals. Video
Mm.
games as well do not give residuals. Again, this is the number one most profitable industry. Call of Duty, I believe, I'm pretty sure the numbers were that it makes $1 million every minute. I do think my writing partner is in here. Brandon, if I know we had that conversation, if you remember, please correct me. But I believe it's $1 million every minute Call of Duty makes. Okay.
So those,
And
I want to explain to people about the
yeah,
residual thing, because some might not understand. So
yeah.
I could have an actor, I could hire Mr. Gary to come in and do voiceover work for me, and I pay him $10 today to do the work, and he agrees and he says yes, and he signs the contract, and he gets his $10 and he goes about his merry business. And here I take my product and I manipulate it 20 different ways. And
Mm-hmm.
I find 20 different ways to make 20 different ways $1 million off of it in perpetuity. Perpetuity
Yep.
means forever.
Yep.
He still has his $10, and he is the major component that I use to create
Mm-hmm.
the art that I have.
Correct.
So therefore, I'm now a gazillionaire, and he has his $10. But he
Yep.
contributes the most, the greatest, the biggest part of what I have. That's how
And see,
residuals work.
exactly. That's a great explanation. Yeah. And the crazy thing is that it's more common in ways of work that don't have as much money. The best residuals are in commercial money, really.
Yeah.
And I always tell people that commercials, they've made their money already. That ad is there as a placement to let them know that a product is releasing, but they have made the units are printed already. They're
Yeah.
they're gonna either be sold or not, but they don't care at that point. What really is crazy to me is that amount of work, commercial. I think the longest commercial shoot that I've ever had is 21 hours, and that was my Beyonce commercial, my Pepsi commercial with Beyonce. But say, for instance, a video game. If you were to, be a producer on Call of Duty, these people come in every year and do motion capture, which is physically demanding work. You're basically on
Hmm.
camera, right? And you've got fake guns. You're in a room that's, all, white or green, not getting the same things that another actor is afforded, like a set and wardrobe and makeup. You don't have any of that. You got to just really use your imagination and act. And yet they are the ones that do not get residuals. You know, this is a company that is making, again, $1 million every minute, you know, and this is something that I feel very strongly that I think in the next 10 years, I'm probably going to end up getting into politics, actor politics, not politics, but actor politics. I feel like I'm going to try out for a role in the SAG cabinet because I think it's just ridiculous. I think that there's no way that, you know, unless we are just working for these companies and making them richer, there should be no reason that we don't get actors residuals off of these projects. Anime is a booming industry, way more so than Western animation.
Yeah.
The merch that comes from Eastern anime, the fandoms that come from Eastern anime. When you go to a convention, they are there for those projects. Yes, Western animation and Western anime is popular, don't get me wrong, but it will never reach the heights of a Dragon Ball Z or a Bleach
Right.
or a One Piece. You know,
Yeah.
those are things that have come over to the West and also made fortunes. That's how big they are. So, you know, I think that in that case, there's no way that you're not giving these people residuals, you know, and it's not like you don't got it, you know.
Right,
So for
right,
me,
right.
that's the biggest thing is that I think eventually that's where my mind is gonna head. And you know, in addition to acting still and creating, I just feel like it'll be the time. If we don't have it by then, I gotta, you know, so
Right, right.
who's gonna do it? So that's hopefully we'll get into that. But other than that, I think the world of voiceover is just so beautiful. To be able to I'm 38 years old and I you know can play a character that a 6-year-old, you know, is absolutely in love with, you know, and I have literally 5-year-old niece, 9-year-old niece, you know, and so it's like just the ability of them coming home and watching Fairly Odd Parents: A New Wish and seeing their uncle as AJ and them and I'm like I used to play him when he was a little kid and they're like we want to watch that, you know, and just that, you know, like you can't that doesn't really happen as much in on camera. You have people who I think also sorry, this is a very long answer.
No,
I
no,
think
no, no.
also
I'm here for it.
with the main thing that I like with voiceover is that it takes away all the additives that people would like me for. It's just my acting. It's just my character. That drawing is not me. The voice is, and that's it. Everything else is a part of this show and part of this environment. But when I'm on camera and I'm playing Bring It On, people will like me because I dressed good. Oh, I like Tyson because he talked nice. He's sexy. You know, and now you're not even worried about you're not even talking about the character or the project or nothing. You like me or you like this person because you like them. You like the way they sound or sing, or you like the way they wink. You like the outfit that they were. You like how their hair was. Talk to my fiance, and it's so funny because she had a crush on Daniel Radcliffe when he was in Harry Potter and she was younger, and I think it was I think it was the fourth or fifth movie. He has like this long haircut, and she cannot stand it. Like every time we watch that movie, she's like, "Oh God, his hair is like this," and it's like every other time she's like, "Oh my God, Daniel, oh Harry Potter," but that time she's like, "No." And I'm like, you see how now his whole performance is overshadowed by the fact that you don't like his hair, you know. So I like that voiceover. I never run into that. You know, if I say I'm a character, it's, oh, you shut up. No way. You know, there is no, oh, I didn't like him, you know, or, you know, I never get that. You know, it's just always cool because for some reason, animated characters are not taken at face value like you are when you're, you know what I mean, when you're on camera. There's a
Yeah.
deeper love to them. There's you know, people resonate with them in a different way. So that is another thing that I absolutely love about voiceover, that I can just be me.
Yeah.
There goes my fiance. She laughing because you know I'm right.
So talk to me about fatherhood, you know, because we're in a different transition of life.
Oh yeah.
And, you know,
I got my dad gang hat on.
and it's sad to say that sometimes, you know, people get caught in the time warp, right? So if people have been living under a rock and they haven't checked around and looked at anything and seen anything new, they still know you from the little kid from the Cosby Show. And I've heard people since they knew that I was having this interview, well, whatever happened to him? What is he doing? I was like, he's has a whole career. Like, he grew up.
Yeah.
He's not that little
Yep.
kid anymore. Can't stay the
Yep.
same. And now you're a dad. Talk to me about fatherhood.
Man, crazy. I something that I've waited for forever. I've wanted to do forever. You know, thankfully I'm not one of those guys that be like, I didn't want kids, but you know, I got it now. You know, but no, I always wanted children, always. I used to tell my mom when I was younger that I was gonna have 10 kids. That has changed. But yeah, no, I love children. You know, my nieces are my world. I feel like, you know, now that I'm having a baby boy, it's just like, it's weird because I'm just like, what about me is going to come out in this child? That's all I can think about. I'm just like, I'm just going to be looking at him and I'm be like, this is my fault. You know, like I'm just ready for that. I already know that I'm going to have those moments. Obviously moments like that with his mom where I'm like, ooh, this your mama, you know? So other than that, I don't know. Everybody feels like I have this huge long-winded answer about, you know, fatherhood, but I think because it's something that I've always wanted to do and always looked forward to, I don't really have much to say about it other than that I'm ready and I just wait. I can't wait for the little guy to get out,
Amen.
you know? Right, you know? So I think that I'm just excited to do things, you know, with him. Everybody's already asking me, am I going to put him in acting and all that? But I tell everybody the same answer. It's like whatever he shows me he wants to do, because that's how I was, you know. I did everything under the sun, you know, and for me, I think that the reason I'm so well rounded is because I was afforded the ability to say, hey, just try this. You know, my parents never, you know, my tribe never was like, you want to what? What? You know, when I said I wanted to dance, I said I wanted to ice skate, I wanted to play tennis, I wanted to swim, you know, I did all of these things and I was supported every time, you know,
Yeah.
so I
I
think
think
that
it's very
now,
important. I think it's very important to let children explore because they have to
yeah.
find themselves. And the earlier on that they start, the better off they'll be.
Exactly. And you don't want to push whatever your values are
Right.
on them so hard that early because the influence is real and people can end up hating what they do and what their lives were. I can't tell
Yeah.
you how many child actors that I know that, you know, be like, I didn't really want to do it, you know, when I was
Yeah.
younger. And now that I have a regular life, I love it, you know, and again, again, that's you, that's what you want, you know, but I'm always sad for the parts that they feel like the time that they lost where they weren't exactly doing what they wanted to. They were doing what someone else wanted to. So
Right.
yeah, I can't wait. I think that I know that I'm already going to be running around after him because he's going to be a little daredevil. Both me and his mom were climbers and jumpers and dancers when we were little. So I know he's just going to be a little. He's wiggling right now in her belly much. So I know he's gonna give us hell. But yeah, I think that I don't know. I feel like he's gonna be quiet probably. I feel like because both me and the mom are just, you know, we will talk your ear off. So I feel like he's gonna be that quiet one in the corner, like my parents talk too much, so I'm just I'm just here. But yeah, can't wait.
In your experience in growing up and in the business and having access to things, what do you contribute your staying on the straight and narrow to? And having a level minded and not getting caught up in that trap.
Two things probably. One, you know, I speak to the tribe always, you know, just having a good, you know, group of people around you that know you as a child, you
Yeah.
know you as a young adult, know you as a teenager, and know and understand what you need to succeed. A lot of people try to put this blanket thing or all child actors need is a little bit of this or whatever, and that's not the case. So I'm just so thankful that again, my people listened to me and knew me enough to guide me in the ways that I needed to go in order to be successful. I think that definitely major factor. And then the other factor is just that none of this stuff matters to me. You know, outside of playing these characters, being in these projects, and talking to the people that are affected by them, I don't really care about anything else surrounding this job. People love being on set. People love going to parties. People love, meeting new actors and celebrities, and I could care less. And again, no disrespect to anybody that I've worked with and no projects and all of that, but to me, I think that we talk so much about taking work home with other professions,
Yeah.
and acting is the one thing that for some reason you have to do it 24/7. You have to immerse yourself. You have to be in the rooms. You got to network. You got to everything, got to breathe it. And I just don't understand why. I think that just like every other profession, you need that time to regroup. You can have people who don't necessarily want to be at work but love their job. I
Mhm.
love what I do. I love what I do. But we're not going to act like that the set is an amazing environment every time. It's not. There's too many factors, there's too many variables to love this outright, in my opinion. I think that acting just, again, so many personalities and jobs mesh together to try to do something great. You're going to get rubbed the wrong way eventually by someone or something. And I think that
Yeah.
if you don't think that and you're trying to push for this to be, you're trying to have your star be at a certain place or a certain height, you're just chasing the wrong thing. And I think that, that is going to come to you regardless. You see the Violas and the Coleman Domingos get their star at 40 and 50, so never is too late, never it's too early. It's just not going, acting is ever changing. So I think that I always looked at it as the people come first, and beyond that, I don't care. I think that if I do so many independent projects or jobs that don't require, the necessary scale or floor that I'm used to, as an actor. But to me, it's because are these people, deserving of a project that, is, oh man, people need to see this. Why am I going to stop the process of something that needs to be seen? You know,
Right.
um, Working with, even with Noah's Ark, that wasn't a huge budget. They were working on MTV Logo budget. Logo was
Mm.
MTV's LGBTQ network that barely got funding from, MTV. And I think that stuff like that, I look at what Black creators have to go through, and I'm like, there's no way that I could be like, oh no, well I don't work for less than, 10K. So, sorry, and now this project has to go and scramble and find someone else or hold auditions
Right.
because it's too good for it. I look at stuff like that and I feel like I could never look at a publication and see somebody in an article and be like, well, we had other actors in mind, and now this project's huge, and I'm the one that said no. I wouldn't be able to live with myself. Are you kidding
Right.
me? Especially with something as personal to me as something by Black creators. So, I think my genetic makeup with this profession, I couldn't be that kind of guy because I'm a
I hear
creator,
that.
a person that needs that help, that handout. Like, look, I'm trying to get this off the ground too. Let's work together. I understand what it means to work sideways. And I think
Right.
that people who don't and are constantly on a ladder, you're never gonna understand the work part. You're just gonna understand the goal. And that's again more power to you, especially if you can reach it. Again,
Yeah.
hats off. But I think that I've been on so many different peaks and valleys with this. I've had the heights where I can't go outside. I've had the lows where I'm like, dang, I really wanted that audition, didn't get it. Thankfully, Lord, again, knock on wood, I've worked every year of my life. I haven't had a year where I'm just like, oh man, no job. But
Right.
I think that again, I'm just so thankful for people who take chances on me. And so
Yeah.
therefore I have to do the same and I have to have a mindset where I can't think about what I'm going to get out of it. So, yeah, I think that's probably it. I think the people that I've seen who are chasing that, those are the people that I see end up usually having a bad time or a bad
Mm.
experience or something that turns their whole ego or personality into something else. Those are usually those cases.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I probably will think about that one later.
Yeah, yeah, no, I
I'll
mean,
think about that
like
one
I
later.
said, I have associates of mine, people that I talk to that, just it didn't pan out in that way because, and this is again admitted from even them, where they say, yeah, I was chasing the rabbit. You know what I
Wow.
mean? And it's just now I have to regroup and now I have to think about what's important to me because I lost that time.
Right.
Because,
Right.
to me, the party was more important, or to me, being seen by this casting director at this place was more important, or being in the noses of these people. And I just have never been that pleaser person. I will cancel on a party quick. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you invite me somewhere, please. Like you better hope that I'm working on this project because man, I tell people all the time, I come out for Cross Colors. Shout out Cross Colors. I come out for Cross Colors every time. Doesn't matter what y'all doing, great, I got you. But more than that, it's very difficult because I feel like to me, if I'm sitting here and I don't realize or don't feel like I know why I'm here, then I shouldn't be. If
Yeah.
I'm sitting here and I'm just schmoozing, or I'm sitting here, I'm just talking to them, I shouldn't be here. There's no need for me to be here. If we just kicking it, I kick it at home.
And then there's also another component to being in the industry. When you're in the industry and you're making moves, it's not just about what's immediate, what's in front of you. It's also about your reputation. It's also about your legacy. And if
Yeah.
you do something and you set a new precedent,
Hmm.
that new precedent is going to be known throughout because it seems like it's a huge community, but it's really a small community.
Oh,
And
very
once
much
you
so.
set a precedent for yourself, it's going to be expected of you to continue down that road.
Yep.
So sometimes once you get on that train, you can't get off.
Exactly. Exactly. Like I said, I've seen it. I've seen it, and I see people who are miserable, like miserable, and they're like, I don't want to go. I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to.
Yeah,
And I'm just like, don't you
yeah,
don't owe these people anything. A lot of people always laugh at me because I'm pretty sure you've seen it. I'm always on Twitter arguing with somebody or talking bad about some project. I'm like, this is crap. Or like, people be like, how can you say that? You're an actor. You're an actor, and you're saying that this is bad. But again, I don't know why we got to the point where we are faking it to be
mhm,
successful, as
mhm.
actors, or, and really it's only in our community. It's only in the black community, right? Because, Seth Rogen can cuss, to the heavens and talk about whoever he wants to talk about. But, if you're black and you say, I don't necessarily like that Tyler Perry doesn't have writing rooms.
Right.
Ooh, so now we have this issue, and I think that is just got to stop. We have to stop
Yeah.
putting ourselves in those kind of boxes. But yeah, I think that the fact that it never meant anything to me. It was never that serious where I had to curb how I talked or watched what I said in front of people to be accepted. I don't care
Right.
if I can't say this and you can't take it constructively, then we don't need to work together. It's not somebody that I want to work with because
Right.
those are the people that I would like to work. Because I want you to say something about me constructively. People come to me all the time. "Oh, so you think you just the best actor?" No, I know I'm not. But I also know that you haven't even had a chance to see it. I also know that what you're going off of is even Stevens. No. Like it's a Disney show. We phoning it in half the time. So,
Right.
for us, especially to people who really act, like you do Disney and it's like, okay, yeah, it's exercise, but it's like jogging around the track, right? It's not, I ain't lifting dumbbells. So for me, I'm like, what do you expect, right? What do you expect people who are as my partner says, real? How do we expect us to act?
Yeah.
Were we supposed to be good little boys, or are we supposed to be real people? Which one? And
Yeah.
to me, it
So
never was the conforming, because I already knew what they would do if you conform. Like you said, you just have to keep going at that point. You have to continue to hold up the image and be one with the Joneses and keeping up and all
and
of that.
then it turns to at what cost? Like, because the bar is going to raise. How far are you willing to go for the thing that we want to give you?
Absolutely. The
Or
movie
I shouldn't
that
say give you, lure in front of your face.
Right. The movie that Marlon Wayans is coming out in with produced by Jordan Peele, is about that. I think it's called Him, but it's about, the athlete sector. But, same deal.
Thank you.
What at what point does it become you're giving up more than just time or effort?
Right.
You're
Right.
giving up pieces of you. You are giving up morals. You're giving up values,
Hmm.
for a late night, and
Right.
I just, again, never my peace. My peace is the most important thing to me in the whole entire
Right.
universe, and I could never ever encroach on my peace because I want to be seen at a party. It's never happened. So,
And to put a cap on this, I want to shout out Auntie Monique. This is her whole fight. This is what she was talking about. This very
oh yeah,
thing. Yep.
yep, yep. And she got crucified for it at
Yep.
first, but
Yep.
and people come around. I think I tell this all the time about stuff that I say on Twitter. I'm like, Twitter is 4 years behind me. Everything that I say 4 years ago, now Twitter want to come. At first we hated Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. Now everybody love him. I was the only one saying that he was the best Spider-Man. Now everybody want to say it. But yeah, I think exactly that. Monique. When you shed light on things like that, you're not going to be loved. You're going to be seen as a troublemaker.
Yeah.
As a fire starter, and not in a good way. But I think that that's been the thing about me, is that I love people like that can take that and say, okay, cool. You don't like it. Monique didn't go and release, 8 comedy specials talking about everybody. She said her piece, was done with it, did her, 1 or 2 interviews, and was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna just
Hmm.
wait for y'all to come around. And, we didn't really hear from her or see her. People forgot about her. And, now look where we're at. So, but I think it's going to be, like I said, the transition is happening. We had
Yeah.
the transition with on camera work and how Black people are treated. We have actors from P Valley showing off their residuals, trying to make ends meet. I think that was a real eye opener for people. And then the strike
Hmm.
hit, and it was like, oh wow, this is something that we have to pay attention to. And I think the same thing is happening in VO now, and hopefully we'll see even more of a resurgence in on camera
Yeah.
work with
Yeah.
community. But it's still very necessary. I think we still have a lot of work to do. I think they're okay with seeing the visual and the image, but still not the words and the content. We had Lovecraft be canceled because their season 2 was going to deal with white people being slaves. And you could say whatever you want about why that show was taken off the air, and you will never be able to convince me that that was not why, because that show was #1 across the board on that network. Jonathan Major's star couldn't have been higher at that time. Neither
Hmm.
could Journey's, and there was nothing that you could say could tell me that that wasn't supposed to get a second season.
Right.
And
Right.
once they showed what the second season was going to be, and I said, there you go. So hopefully we will get past that in 10 years. Because if we don't, like I said, I'm gonna go crazy, and I might just have to get in politics to change some stuff. I won't
I
be able to
so
deal
see
with
that for you, though. I so see that. Seriously.
it. Yeah,
And
I
since
appreciate
we're
it.
talking about business, I want to segue into, I have 2 more things for you. I want to segue into Gray Skies Entertainment. Talk to me about
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, GSE, Gray Skies Entertainment is my production house. It is a small boutique company. We are trying right now to build, human stories, and really just gain a slate. I started this years and years ago, and didn't do much with it. I didn't really have the resources or the time, and I would say in the pandemic, my writing partner, Brandon, he, affectionately known as Bam, he definitely had the idea, I would say, that really sort of sparked uh, Gray Skies as a legitimate company. And we've taken it from that and just grown. Right now, we have 4 major projects in our slate that are in active pre-production. 3 of them are animated, because again, my goal is to get people to understand that animation is not a medium, or sorry, is a medium, not a genre. So for me, it's about getting that to be taken seriously.
Mhm.
And we are very dedicated to that. So we specialize in putting our community in spots that we're just not used to: supernatural, sci-fi, fantasy, otherworldly, everything. We have a supernatural project, supernatural epic, where werewolves are our top of the food chain supernatural entity called the American Werewolves that we are hard at work developing, and that is going to be a game changer, a game changer. So we are just excited. I think I had imposter syndrome for a while, you know, where you're like, dang, am I really doing this? Like I don't know. Like,
You
you
just kind of
know,
made the hairs on my back stand up. My hairs just stood
oh
up a little
no.
bit.
I I'm very confident. I'm a very confident person. I think it came from just me being a kid, and I never talked if I didn't know what I was talking about. I was a reader. I'm a read. I'm gonna be silent. You're not gonna see me. You're not gonna hear me. And then when you do, it's gonna be something that you're like, oh wow, wait, I can't. And then try to question me? Absolutely not. Because remember when I was quiet, that's when I was learning about this stuff, and I guarantee you, I know more than you. So trust me when I say that I will not boast about anything that I do. You know, I think I can probably count on one hand how many times I've said to somebody that I believe that I'm a fantastic or great actor. Like, even though I know it and believe it, but saying it out loud, yeah, I don't do that. But with these projects, I tell my partner all the time, I'm like, if there was a time that somebody could say, if I had the money, you know, what you would see, it is this. You know, for me, the projects are very big, you know, so there are things that I can shoot myself and do plan to, but the things that we've thought of and the worlds that we've built, for instance, American Werewolves has over 30,000 years worth of timeline done. You know, we have races and, you know, languages and things thought out, ecosystems, you know, to the point of no return at this point. And so for me, it's crazy to see it develop over this many years and to be this solid. And for the people who have been able to peep and see and read things, have said to me, masterpiece. I think that I've really not gotten anything less than that usually when it comes down to any feedback. So with American Werewolves, with The Land Below, Peter, Infinite Eight, these are all projects that you will hear of later. I know I just dropped a couple bombs, but that's all you can know for right now. But those titles, yeah, are my next 10 years and beyond of legacy. For me, I see that, yes, people will know and hear about the actor me and remember the actor me, but I think that when you talk legacy, like the word like that you said and use legacy, I feel like that is what I will be known as. I see myself, I've dreamed of seeing myself, you know, be at the towards the end of my life and people being like, he's the creator and, you know, and co-creator and writer of American Werewolves. Like he's a legend. Or, you know, people who have seen Infinite Eight. Infinite Eight is a 6 film animated black Star Wars epic. You know,
Mm.
so, you know, with that, you know, you look at stuff like that and you're like, who is doing this? No one. So I will. And that's kind of my promise is that, yeah, that's what's next with GSC from the big and small. Right now I'm focused on those things and to other independent creators who don't necessarily know how to take a idea from the brain or the page and flesh it out to something that's either pitchable or sellable. That is what we specialize in. You know, I have taken so many projects and, you know, morphed them into viable pitch decks or pitches for people. So really that is something that I like to do outside of my own creations. So yeah, that is the focus of GSC right now. We are just hard at work. We got some art back recently. Shout out my boy Marco. I don't know if you're on here, but you know, it's looking really great. I can't gush enough about it. You gotta have to shut me up.
That sounds awesome. And you have me in great anticipation. I'm looking forward to it. So
Awesome.
this is the final part of our conversation. And
Mm,
what I normally get my guests to do is to do a manifestation of
mm,
whatever it is that they would like to manifest.
mm. Lovely. I am manifesting for the Gray Skies Entertainment slate to employ and push the recognition of Black women who are creators, which I try to employ and have under me as you know as much as I can. I manifest that the people involved with GSC see their projects and their hard work realized physically, in whatever shape and form that the power so chooses. I feel like I want to manifest an amazing life for me and my son and my soon-to-be wife and our families, to just revel in the progress and the success of all of these things. So that is what I will manifest. I want these projects out there to the masses. One, because I'm tired of them being in my laptop, but I'm tired of working on them. But two, because again, I just feel like these are stories. Yeah, I've gotten just stuff back from people that I know how I feel when I go and see a project or I watch a project on my screen, and I feel moved, whether it be by a performance, an individual, or whether it be the project as a whole. I know what it feels like to reach that point as a consumer, and I just want that for other people with my work. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm invested
Mr. Gary
Great question.
Leroy Gray, I appreciate your time, your energies, and your
Thank you.
efforts. Thank you for your artistic contributions, and thank you in advance for the stuff you'll do in the future.
Thank you.
Hopefully, you will come back and see me.
Of
Utilize my
course.
platform as a way for you to discuss anything you would like to discuss.
Yeah, we're gonna,
You
we're
know,
gonna have to do a premiere or something on the IG live or something. We're gonna have to do it like that.
I like it. I'm here
Yeah,
for it. I'm here for
with it.
all of it.
I'm with it.
Tell people where they can find you and keep up with you.
You can find me mostly on I was about to call it Twitter, X. I still call it Twitter. What is it? Mama call him Twitter. I'm gonna call him Twitter. But for for me, at Gary L Gray. That's Gary, the letter L, then Gray on Twitter, X, or also on IG. Those are the main platforms you can find me at. I do have a Facebook. It is Gary L Gray as well. I'm never on there. Please do not hit me up on Facebook thinking you're going to get a response, because I will not see it. But yeah, IG and Twitter at Gary L Gray with an A. And yeah, those are the places to find me, and you will see any updates there. I am currently hard at work on a website for not only my sort of, I guess, artist page and my past work, but also to book classes with me, because I do coach acting. So I have done acting coaching sort of on the low for like 3 years, and people have only really been able to get in touch with me through email and through referral. But now it's getting to the point where I have so many students where I'm like, I need some place where people can go on and book, because I'm tired of that. So we're building the website as we speak, and it will
Nice.
be done hopefully before the baby is born, so I can have some structure to when people are booking classes with me.
When
But
when
yeah,
is Master Gray due?
he is set to come September 3rd, but we're thinking it will be a little bit earlier, because he just feels like he's ready. He is kicking the mess out of his mom. But yeah, I say probably last week in August. I'm thinking most likely gonna be there. His aunt's gonna love that, because her birthday is also around that time. So I know she's hoping and praying for it. But yeah, September 3rd is the date. He will be a little Virgo if all goes to plan. They will induce her September 3rd, but like I said, I think he's coming a little bit earlier. We will see.
I have a really last question. It's a geek question. It's me because I'm a nerd.
Ooh, yeah, yeah,
Did
yeah.
you
I'm
have
surprised there wasn't
any?
more of those.
Did you have any issues? Maybe I shouldn't use the word issues. Was there anything pertaining to the director Gary L. Gray in your names being in SAG or anything? That always interests me because I saw a certain place you used Gary Leroy. Is that
Yeah,
because of that?
it absolutely is. If you see my
Okay.
work before F. Gary Gray was more known, you would see Gary Gray. Sometimes you would see Gary L. Gray, but it was pretty rare. Most of the time, you would either see Gary Gray or my full name spelled out. What
Hmm.
happened was, what happened was, I accidentally got his check in the mail for the negotiator. So yeah, I had to run it. My mom got it, and she's like, this is not yours. So we had to literally take it physically to the SAG offices on Wilshire and turn it in. And they were like, yeah, something's got to be done. And so now legally, I have to use my initial so that it can differentiate between us two. So you see him use F. Gary Gray. He cannot use Gary Gray either. And I have to use Gary L. Gray because we are the only acting Grays that have the same first and last name without the E spell, and it's the A. So, yeah, very difficult for SAG, unfortunately. And yeah, like I said, that is definitely a little piece of lore, F. Gary Gray lore. Funny enough, I actually have met him, and we think we're related, possibly,
Wow.
because
Wow.
his family is from St. Louis, and my dad's side of the family, the Gray side, is also from St. Louis. So he thinks that we might be loosely related. We still haven't gotten to the point where we figure that out yet. But every time I run into him, he says hi. You know, we're always cordial. But yeah, I would love to work with him one day. Like, hey, call me. You know what I'm saying? Like Gary Gray in the Gary Gray film. Come on, you got to be able to say that at least one time in your career, right? You know what I'm saying?
So what I've learned
F.
since
Gary,
I've been
Gary
doing this,
Gray, Gary L. Gray, and F. Gary Gray film. Like, come on. It's like, come on. I can't wait for what's Gabe Kunda, my homeboy. He does the movie guy voice. I can't wait for Gabe Kunda to be like, hey, Gary Gray, and by Gary Gray. Like, people gonna be like, what? I need that. I need that in my life. So yeah, I cannot wait. I want to work with him. Maybe Fast and Furious 20 when they come out with it. We'll see.
yeah, you never know. Listen, this portal has been known to make things happen for people. This is why I do the manifestation,
Hey,
because it's a thing.
okay. I
It's
like
a
it.
thing.
I like that I
Yeah.
said what I manifested there. We gonna come back to that. I feel it. I feel it.
All right, brother. I appreciate you. Congratulations on your life and everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
Blessings to you.
I appreciate you having me on. Thank you for everybody for joining and asking questions and all that. Like I said, anytime you want to revisit, let me know. Pop back in. We can just chop it up, talk about nerd stuff. Don't matter.
All right. Thank
Peace
you.
out, y'all. Thank you.
All right.